All right, everyone. My name is Pascal Borel, and I'm talking to you from the Swiss mountains, as you may see. This is a kind of Q&A session today, because I have a few anecdotes for you. Quite often in the comments that I get, I see people talking to me about the IPCC, saying that they are filled with fabulous specialists, experts, scientists, and which, are much more trustworthy than my analysis. Well, yeah, you may think that way, but I have two anecdotes to give you. I live in a Swiss village in the mountains, in Verbier, not to mention it. And they organize a few yearly events, and the IPCC is regularly invited. They probably pay absolutely no fees for their stand and their location in the village. And once I'm doing my little promenade and looking at the various people, and I'm with my darling son, Rakam. And we get to the IPCC people. And I see one of the top executives there, a tall gentleman, quite thin, presents very good, a good face, and so forth. Then I introduce myself and, oh, hello, how are you? And we start talking. And of course, the debate, the conversation drifts towards CO2. And I'm asking him something like, but yeah, well, the global warming is clearly due to the greenhouse effect on the global scale on the planet. Is that right? He said, oh, of course, Mr. Ray, absolutely, and so forth. And then I say, but then what is the gas which alone represents, I'd say, 70 to 85% of the greenhouse effect globally? And he goes for methane and CO2. And I say, hey, time out. No. It's water vapor. It's clouds. We don't have so many at the moment. So the guy wasn't even aware that water vapor represents like 70+% of the greenhouse effect on the planet. And so, of course, he's a bit embarrassed and so forth. So the conversation drifts, and then he uses another of his argument, I'd say, saying to me that the cows by themselves represent like the biggest mass, weight concentrated into one species on the planet. And of course I say, hey, time out. No, that's not true. The biggest mass of meat, in inverted comma, concentrated into one species on the planet is the Lombrics, the worms in the ground, which alone recycle on a 7-year basis the entire ground in all forests worldwide, in all fields, in everywhere. And by themselves, they represent 60+% of the animal mass. So the guy is a bit, shaky, and voila, he doesn't want to, and I can see the other people, they have a strange, around him, having a strange body language, because I'm not trying to crucify him, but it is what's happening. So anyway, the conversation ends, and we start walking back home with my darling son. And then we are like 20, 30 yards away, and my son bursts in laughs. And I say, what's going on? And he said, Pascal, Dad, you've crucified the guy. It's crazy. Have you seen the distress in his body language and his face? When you were talking to him, suddenly you made him aware that not only he didn't understand and knew the basic foundation of the business model he's selling to the world, which pays his salary, and he was like completely flabbergasted. You've just killed him in a matter of 10, 15 minutes of conversation. This is crazy. And he was laughing so much. And this is true, I'm afraid. And I got the same example about Greenpeace, which I met, voilà. And actually, it's in my book. On Greenpeace, the example is so flabbergasting that I've written it. I had to in my book. I think it's in probably chapter 4, Empire of Lies. And I advise you to go and have a look. You go on my website, planet24.com or on YouTube, whichever platform. You're going to find the text, the videos, the podcasts, and you'll check it out, what I have written. I'm not going to go extensively on Greenpeace, but they have a business model which is even more obscene than the IPCC. Anyway, and it's so funny because, well, okay, no, I'm not going to go into any further detail on that one. May I remind you, though, that when it comes to CO2, a volcano alone, like the Krakatoa, I think it was in 1883 on top of my head or something like that, produced in 48 hours more CO2 in the atmosphere, but the entire human activities in 4 to 6 years, depending on the type of calculation you do, in 2024. Meaning that in 24 hours, one single volcano, although it was a very heavy eruption, it was between Java and Sumatra, one of the greatest eruptions. But eruptions, you have continuously, you have hundreds of active volcanoes on the planet all the time. And they produce so much more CO2 that you can possibly imagine. I mean, the most crazy calculation about the amount of CO2 being produced by mankind is saying that we produce probably no more than 4%. And some scientists, very serious ones, are saying that we produce 0.001% of the CO2 emissions on the global scale on planet Earth. So anyway, I'm just saying this because, once again, the impact that we have on the climate, us human beings, is homeopathic. It's very small. We probably have a greater impact on pollution with the plastics, which are estrogen-like, and therefore stop the males from being able to fertilize their female. I'm talking about frogs and all kind of fish and all kind of animals. Anyway, but again, the reason why they make you believe that CO2 is the driver of the global warming is because they tax you on it. For politicians, it is magic. When I say magic, it is. In Switzerland, for instance, they started with the CO2 taxes at 12 Swiss francs, same thing, 12 euro, whatever, $12. Nowadays, like 15 years later or about, they are at 120. And they had, successive rise all the time. And, as long as they can make you feel guilty because you are responsible, for them it's magic. You're not going to make a revolution. You're not going to interfere. You're not going to say nothing. You will pay and pay and pay. This is insane. Absolutely insane. Anyway, just a quick word. I've mentioned it into another video. Sometimes last weekend, I think my video on WEF, the shame of Switzerland, which it is, by the way, it is, has started, it had in English, it has a gentle takeoff, and suddenly my partners, mathematicians, PhDs, and blah, 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 fabulous people that I've worked with all my life. They're calling me and saying, "Hey, Pascal, have you looked at your video? There is more than 16,000 views. It's taking off in 2 hours." And suddenly, it is a plateau, meaning that the algorithm, I guess, of TickTock, which I thank my community on TickTock, by the way, because it's growing rapidly, and I get hundreds and hundreds of messages, encouragement, and it's fabulous. But suddenly I receive sets of messages saying, "Oh, I can't share your video anymore. Is there a technical problem? Blah, blah." And for 12 hours, the video does literally 0 views, or quasi zero views after doing 16,000 in a lesser time, but 2 hours. Uh-oh. Why am I saying this? It's because you should really subscribe and go and register on my website, www.forovet24.com, or any other platform. It might be YouTube, BitRoot, Rumble, Odyssey, X, Telegram, and all the platforms that I'm using to share my message with you. Because sooner or later, I'm going to be cancelled. And let's face it, I'm receiving messages saying, oh, after what you're saying, we have very little chance to finally see you on a whatever traditional media platform in order to discuss your case with the scientists and the people which are fooling you all the time. And I've answered already, partially answered, saying that truth will set you free. And there are still some traditional media, in inverted comma, which are trying to offer you freedom and which are still honest enough to probably at some stage invite me on their shows. So we'll see. But what I'm saying to you is that I am currently on literally all platforms. You will find the list of the platforms that I'm on my website. You can subscribe to them. By the way, everything is for free. Even on my website, my book, for example, where I disclose how we need to have the current democracies replaced, if not dying in the current format, I'm sorry to say, to be reborn in and at the service of people, of the citizens. You cannot cure a patient who's in palliative care. Or more like, if you look at the way the state are being managed at this stage in time, they are giving, we are adding laws and laws and laws and amendments. And you must know one thing, the excess of laws is the greatest of injustice. We all understand that. And it's exactly like a patient in palliative care. He's willing to take any medicine to give him a little 2 weeks of life. And this is exactly what's happening with our current democracies. We're feeding them with things to try, the politicians more like, are feeding them with things which are designed to make sure they stay in power as long as possible, but at your expense. We need to have those systems put to the ground in order for a new one to be reborn, so that our politicians can again have a pride in public service. This is what you want. This is what we need. So, yeah, to some extent, a lot of my videos have been censored in the past. You find them all on the website. I repeat, www.forovet24.com. And this is what you need to do. A last word. Why am I performing all this action? Why am I speaking to you? Because I want to put in place, I would say, an asymmetrical war in inverted comma. It's not a war. I'm totally against any weapons. I'm for non-violence. And by the way, I think non-violence is the only power of a truly strong man. Any imbecile can win a war through violence. But the only person who wins a war is the one that organizes peace. That's my background. This is where I'm coming from. But the reason why I'm doing it is because I cannot see myself leaving as a legacy the totally dysfunctional system that we have today. This is a no-no. I'm a Borel. As long as I have a breath in my lungs, I'll be fighting for you, for me, for my kids, for my father, my mother, my daughter, my son, everyone, so that I pull my weight in the legacy I will be leaving behind me. And this is why, please, go and check out the book 2024 in videos, in podcasts. Look at chapter 4 about the empire of lies. Look at chapter 7, source of revenues of politicians, the state, of states. And you love it. And then look at the constitutions I have entirely rewritten for you. A 7, 10 years old can understand it easily. It's like what our legal framework should be. You know, the legal framework should be understandable by a 7, 10 years old. Otherwise, it is not in his service. So please, check it out. Go on my website. Check out the book. Check out the uncensored video. It is a free platform, no cookies. We're not stealing, we're not selling any of your information. It's an open platform to exchange, have a dialogue. Please leave your comments. I reply to the comment as much as I can, but I do it. This is my commitment to you. And now I thank you for your kind and benevolent attention. Peace out.